Hey everybody, this is another video from my grade 10 MIAPs class. This is me making the answer key to the chapter 6 review, so the review will be posted. You only have to watch this video if you've checked the answer and you don't get the same answer that I do, or you're wondering how I got an answer, because I'll explain as I go. So, for number 1, are these slopes positive, negative, 0, or undefined? Well, A is going up as you go from the left to the right, so it is positive. B is a horizontal line which has 0 slope. C is a vertical line which has an undefined slope. And D is going down as you go from left to right, so that's a negative slope. All right, I actually have to determine the slopes of the lines. Now, these points aren't on a coordinate grid, so I can't read the coordinates and use the coordinate formula, but I can still count the rise over run. This one rises 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it runs 1, so it has a slope of 5 over 1. I never bother writing over 1. B has a slope of a rise of negative 1 and a run of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's negative 1 over 5. Let's see, did I count that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep. And did I count this one right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep. And C has a slope of, let's see, we rise 2, and we run 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I left the answer like that, that would cost you half a mark, because that should simplify to a half. Okay, number 3, determine the slope of the line passing through. Aha, now I can use my formula. And my formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is my slope. So I will, let's see, I'll call this one the second coordinate. So m is 8 minus 4 over 5 minus 3, which is 4 over 2, which is a slope of 2. And for this one, I'll call this the second coordinate. So that's negative 9 minus 1 over 3 minus negative 2, which is negative 10 over 5, which is negative 2. Okay, so that's the first page. Page 2. Draw a line that passes through the point negative 2, 3. All right, so that's the y-axis, so negative 2 and 1, 2, 3. And it has a slope of 2, which remember I think of as 2 over 1, so I go up 2 over 1. And there's my line. Okay, draw a line that passes through the point 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, and has a slope of negative 1 over 3. So I go down 1 and 1, 2, 3 to the right. Rise over run. Okay, number 6, are these two lines perpendicular? They would be perpendicular if the slope of AB was the negative reciprocal of the slope of CD. So let's find the slope of AB. So from A to B, I rise, I better count this properly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I run, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so what's the slope of CD? Well, the slope of CD is let's see, we rise negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. And we run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Are those two things negative reciprocals of each other? No, they are not. Let me just double check AB, make sure I counted right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the bottom number. Yep. And that top number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. They kind of don't even really look like they meet at a right angle, but mathematically we now know for sure. Okay, find the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope here is 2, the y-intercept is 3. The slope here is negative 2/3, the y-intercept is negative 3. And the slope here is 0, because you could think of this as 0 times x. And the y-intercept is 6. Okay. Page 3. Identify the slope and the point that this thing passes through. So, okay, the slope is this number here, right? Because remember, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. right? That's my slope formula, or sorry, my point slope formula for an equation. So my slope here is 3, my slope here is -1/2, and my slope here is 4/3. Now look at this formula carefully. Make sure you realize that this number here is always a minus. So that 4 in that formula means that it's actually a positive 4. But this 2, the only way that a minus would turn into a plus would be if it was minusing -2. So there we go. And same thing here, -2, 4. And that would be, of course, 0 and -8. Okay, number 9. Write an equation for a line that has a slope of -3 and a y-intercept of 6. Okay, so it has a slope of -3 and a y-intercept of 6. Write the equation for a line that passes through the origin. The origin, by remember, is 0, 0, and has a slope of -2/3. Well, I'm going to use this same thing. I'm going to use y equals mx plus b, because technically a 0, 0 is also the y-intercept. So that'd be y equals -2/3 x, and I'll say plus 0, but I'm not going to bother writing plus 0. Number 11, write an equation for a line that has a slope of 2 and passes through that point. Okay, so I'm going to use my point slope formula. So y minus -8 is equal to the slope of 2 and x minus -5. And it doesn't say I have to change it, so I'll just leave it like that. Write an equation for a line that has a slope of 1 and passes through that point. So y minus 4 equals 1 times x minus 3. And keep in mind, I don't really need to write a 1 for a slope. Okay, number 13. It's not wrong if you do that, but it's unnecessary. For 13, write an equation for the line that passes through the points that and that. So I'm going to use my slope formula. So that'll be 9 minus 5 on the top and 6 minus 4 on the bottom. So 9 minus 5 is 4, 6 minus 4 is 2, so that's 2 for a slope. And then I'll use my point slope form that I used in the last couple of questions. And I'll use this point. So it's going to be y minus 5 equals 2 times x minus 4. And in case anybody wanted to try it with that point, it should be y minus 9 is equal to 2 times x minus 6. And I know those look different, but if you were to turn those into general form, they'd both be the same equation. Speaking of which, we're supposed to turn that into general form. So let's do that. My first step is I like to get rid of the fraction. So I'm going to times the entire equation by 2. So that's 2y plus 2 is equal to -3 times x minus 2. Then I like to get rid of the bracket by the distributive property. Don't forget a negative times a negative is a positive. Then I do the step called everybody out of the pool. I move these two things to the other side by addition and subtraction. So that's going to be 3x plus 2y, and then I minus 6 from 2, so that's minus 4 equals 0. Okay, so there's the fourth page. And I think this might be our last page. Some practice graphing. Okay, so graph the line y equals 1/3 x minus 7. So let's see, -7 is the y-intercept. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I have a slope of go up 1 and over 1, 2, 3. So there's that line. And I'm supposed to determine the x and y intercepts. Well, I'm not going to be able to read them off that graph because the line's way down here. So I'll find them algebraically. So the x-intercept happens when y is 0. So add 7 to both sides. And then divide both sides by 3, which is this, or sorry, let me say that again. Divide both sides by 1/3, which is the same as timesing both sides by 3. And my x-intercept's 21. And my y-intercept happens when x is 0. And 1/3 of nothing is still nothing, so y is -7. And that makes sense, right? Because the x is going to be way over here someplace. Makes sense that it's 21. And I do know that one. I could just read it off the graph as -7. Okay, so graph this line. Now remember, this is going through the point -3, 5, and it has a slope of -1. So -1, -2, -3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and it has a slope of -1, which means I go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and I'm doing this for a reason, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. If you're wondering, why is he counting so many points? Last time he only used 2, because it does ask me for my x and y intercepts, and I thought I'd just count them this time, since they're both nicely in my graph. So my x-intercept is 2, and my y-intercept is 2. Cool. And you could always double check those numbers. Remember, the x-intercept happens when y is 0. So if I put a 0 here, 0 minus 5 equals -x plus 3. So divide both sides by this negative. Move the 3 to the other side, and x is 2. And this 2 happens when the x is 0. This is only something I'd do on a test if I had lots of time. And then 0 plus 3 is 3, but the negative of 3 makes it -3. So y is equal to 5 minus 3, which is also 2. So yep, them's good answers. 16, graph that one. Okay, now I have 2 strategies. If you go back to the video where I showed people how to do this, I kind of have 2 strategies for when it's in general form. If 3 and 4 were both factors of 16, I would just find the intercepts. But 3 doesn't go into 16 without being a fraction. I don't feel like trying to graph fractions on here. So I am going to change this to y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to change this into y equals mx plus b by first of all minusing 3x from both sides and adding 16 to both sides. Then I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by 4. And don't forget the x. And there we go. So it has a y-intercept of 4. And then I go down 3 and over 1, 2, 3, 4 to get another point. And there we have it. Everything graphed. And I think that's it for this thing. Yep, that's it. So that was your review. If you found this really hard, go back and do more homework before you tackle the test. Thanks for watching.